everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today for what is probably not your first virtual event in 2020, but it is the first ever virtual One Community Spotlight on Success Local Heroes Awards. I'm Carrie Pena.
And I'm Brandon Lee. Even though, we can't be together in person this year, we still wanted to find a way to gather our community, one community, and celebrate our heroes.
Yes, that is right. In times like these, it's important to remember that there is more that binds us than divides us, and that's what One Community is all about. One Community is dedicated to creating a coalition of socially responsible businesses and individuals who support and promote diversity, inclusion, and equality for all Arizonans.
So One Community has become the go-to organizations for LGBTQ and allied businesses and organizations, and for those who want to understand how and why they need to be involved with the LGBT community.
Yeah, they do so much incredible work, and I've been a supporter of LGBTQ rights as an ally, of course, for a very long time, and I support One Community's vision of a fully inclusive Arizona.
Absolutely. One Community works each and every single day to create a more diverse, equitable, and welcoming Arizona that celebrates, protects, and even respects all who live in this great state. Their work towards a fully inclusive Arizona is ensuring that LGBTQ people, just like me, have access to the same rights and the same protections as everyone else.
And One Community is home to the Unity Pledge, which promotes equality in the workplace, housing, and public accommodations. And now the largest Unity Pledge in the nation, which is so impressive. The Unity Pledge has paved the way to unifying discussions with businesses, community organizations, schools, faith leaders, and elected officials across our great state about the importance of treating each other and everyone, all of us, equitably and equally.
100%. And even though we have made such great gains in the fight for full equality, there is still a lot of work to be done to ensure that we live in an Arizona that is truly open for business to everyone. And today we are so honored to share with you the incredible work One Community has done over the past year in the face of truly enormous challenges and the progress that's been made.
Yeah, we want to talk about the progress because there are many challenges still ahead of us, of course, but we are also thrilled today for the opportunity to honor someone who has influenced so many of us here today.
And I know you're going to know who this person is, someone whose courage, grace, and leadership made it okay for us to live as our most authentic selves, not just in private, but in public too. Today serves as both a celebration and a rededication to keep moving forward together, no matter the challenges or the obstacles we face.
Yeah, you know, we're talking about someone who many of you know, and of course we know how incredibly busy everyone is, and many of you balancing work and home simultaneously. So we do want to thank you for being here, and we are excited, Brandon and I, to share the incredible work of One Community that they've been doing, and we want to also thank the sponsors who make that work possible.
Unity agent sponsor, PetSmart. Center stage sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Castle Group, Cox, Fry's Food Stores, Glendale Chamber of Commerce, Hensley, JP Morgan Chase, KEO Marketing, Many to One, and Sheridan Grand. Floodlight sponsors, Arizona Cardinals, Apple, OH Strategic, and Open Wide Dental.
Searchlight sponsors, Arizona Coyotes and Univision. Highlight sponsors, AARP of Arizona, American Medical Response, Bank of America, Downtown Phoenix Inc., Gamage and Burnham, Goodman's Interior, PayPal, Phoenix College, and SRP. You know, it really has been a year that none of us could have imagined, and in the midst of all the turmoil, there was still such important work to be done, and One Community has continued to rise to the challenge and meet the moment.
They do just about every single year. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the vital ways One Community continued their work towards an Arizona that is welcoming and open for business to everyone.
Well, all I have to say is we're going to turn it on like a light switch because we are proud of who we are. We are LGBTQ and we are allies, and I want to hear you.
Arizona cannot continue to lag behind with regard to using all the tools we can to attract the best and brightest people to come work in our state. Arizona, it's time to pass a non-discrimination law for all of Arizona and make sure Arizona is not just open for all, but provides opportunity for all.
Trying to do these kinds of pieces of legislation that are discriminatory will impact our ability to attract tourism, big sporting events, and other big events.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
The Arizona legislative session is over. The Senate, which had tried to end it earlier this month, did so today without voting on more than 24 bills sent over from the House.
From Brazil to Iran, thousands have gathered to show solidarity with U.S. protests over the killing of George Floyd. He died after a Minneapolis cop kneeled on his neck for nearly 9 minutes.
The Unity March bringing together two groups that share the common ground of oppression.
The LGBTQ and Black communities joining for the Arizona Unity March on the Arizona State Capitol.
Victors, thank you so much, and I just want to thank all of the LGBTQ inclusive organizations that collaborated on this very important Queer the Census Town Hall. It's an absolute pleasure to work along with all of you to ensure that LGBTQ Arizonans and LGBTQ Americans are counted in the 2020 census.
We can get people to actually stop the injustice or stop the wrongdoing and step up. I think that would help tremendously, and that's an ally to me.
I mean, minorities need the majorities. Like, minorities can't move on their own. Like, they need the majority to acknowledge them and to listen to them and understand and comprehend what they're saying.
At this point in 2020, I think it's understanding the difference between a difference of opinion and literally someone's humanity.
In a watershed victory for LGBTQ rights, the Supreme Court Monday ruled that federal law protecting workers from discrimination on the basis of sex also applies to gay and transgender people.
What you have done, you've changed. It's not just on the legal side and the ordinances and the legislation that you've been able to move forward in Arizona. You've changed the culture for the state for the better permanently, and that's an extraordinary accomplishment.
We'll probably have 1 or 2 shots at this, and if we don't get it right, then we're going to leave people behind for maybe a generation or longer.
And I can't stress enough the importance of voting.
Our government is supposed to treat us all equally.
One community and Angela, you have paved the way. You have built such a solid, nonpartisan, inclusive foundation. Your grace, your kindness, your approach to the whole thing has really set the stage, I think, for Arizona to take these next steps.
The culture and the public opinion on this has changed dramatically. So there's more work to be done.
"2020 has been an extremely challenging year, trying at times for so many people, but a lot of folks out there are just trying to do the best they can."
One day at a time, right?
Yep.
And you know, Brandon, the year in review, it really does, it always blows me away with everything that this organization is able to accomplish in a single year, trying to move that needle closer to equality. And that is just...
It's a marathon. And you just got to take a step forward each and every day.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Marathon, not a sprint. And now we would like to say thank you so much to PetSmart for being such incredible partners and for being our Unity agent sponsors and remarkable partners for the past 7 years. And we're excited, of course, to be honoring the one and only Neil Giuliano this year as the Unity agent.
At PetSmart, we love pets.
And we believe pets teach us some valuable lessons about life.
They have a keen understanding of what matters the most. Pets remind us to be humble,
show compassion,
be ourselves.
The most important lesson of all, that love is love, and everyone is worthy of unconditional love.
As a Phoenix-based company, we are proud to support organizations that unite our community and protect the rights of all people.
We are PetSmart, and we are proud to stand with this community, united by our belief in unconditional love.
Hello, I'm Kristen Shane with PetSmart. Thank you all for joining us virtually today to celebrate our community and strengthen the culture of our state. As an Arizona-based company, PetSmart is proud of our local heritage and even more proud to support local organizations that bring the community together. Creating a culture of belonging for all our employees is ingrained in our core values and our everyday practices. At PetSmart, we are committed to equality and equity for everyone, and we are proud to lead the important dialogue about diversity, inclusion, and equality in the workplace in Arizona and all over the country. That is why we are honored to present the Unity Agent Award today. Unity agents lead by doing what's right. They follow their hearts no matter the obstacles and no matter the personal cost in order to make the world a little bit better for all of us. That is why, in a year that calls for servant leadership, courage, conviction, and dedication to bringing us together, we could think of no better recipient than Neil Giuliano. Neil has long been one of Arizona's most admired public servants. We first came to know him as a student leader at ASU, a Tempe city councilman, and mayor of Tempe. The Tempe of today owes much to the vision and leadership of Neil Giuliano. During his time as mayor, he stewarded major initiatives such as light rail and Tempe Town Lake. He also became the first directly elected openly gay mayor in the United States. After his tenure as mayor, Neil went on to become the president of GLAAD, where he was critical to advancing public opinion on marriage equality, and then the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, dramatically expanding free services for prevention and care. In 2015, Arizona was fortunate to welcome Neil back home as president and CEO of Greater Phoenix Leadership, an alliance of regional CEOs working together to improve the economic standing and overall quality of life at the intersection of business, government, philanthropic, and education sectors. Neil's entire career has been dedicated to the betterment of the community around him. And along the way, Neil broke barrier after barrier for LGBTQ people as an elected official, an advocate, and a CEO. We are so fortunate to have Neil's courage, conviction, and service in our community to lead us toward a better tomorrow for all Arizonans.
I'm just a guy with a desire to make a difference, who started early in life to fill that desire to serve. And it was rooted in the fact that doing so was how I could first be accepted. And that was vital back then because I knew for the longest time I wasn't like everybody else, and it scared me. And even as an overly involved young college student, fearing that I might never fit in or amount to anything, I know most of the people in this room, you can't imagine that perhaps, but for some of us, that's the way it is for a while. Until I could accept my truth, I thought it might be better if I just didn't have a future to worry about. Now, those very dark moments, those flirtations with tragedy were tough, but they actually propelled me to take on and accept any job, any responsibility, any little office that any little group would be willing to give me. Because it gave me purpose. It was at first an ember, but it was a purpose that over time and with maturity grew into a flame, no pun intended.
My name is Neil Giuliano. I actually grew up back east in New Jersey. I was a Jersey kid in a very Roman Catholic Italian family. My father had been a Marine, my mother had been a pediatric nurse, and 4 kids, and just a pretty middle-class upbringing in northern New Jersey. Well, I grew up in a household with a father who was very involved in the community. He was a city councilman, a ward city councilman in a township in Bloomfield, New Jersey, about 60,000 people in between Newark and New York City. My mom was very involved in the community. She was the den mother for the Cub Scout troop, you know, the whole bit. So being involved in the community and being engaged and having people over all the time and having family over all the time or going to grandma's house every single Sunday was our life. That was our life. We didn't know it any differently. It was just the way it was for us. Yeah, I grew up knowing that being involved in the community was just the way it was. There was really no, it's just that is the way it was. You didn't have a choice about that. You were involved in the community. My father abruptly resigned from the city council and said he was moving west. I stayed in New Jersey for high school, then came out here and went to Arizona State University in the fall of 1974. When I got into college, I started realizing that I was not like everybody else, not like my buddies on the soccer team or not like my friends in the dorm. And I had that look in the mirror and realizing that, wait a minute, this is like not a phase, this is the way it is. And quite honestly, I was scared to death. And I didn't know what I was going to do about that because this was not allowed. This is not the way you're supposed to be in my upbringing, and certainly in, you know, whether it was religious or just sort of family and so forth, it was not the way to be. But I had that look in the mirror when I was a sophomore in college at Arizona State University. I could tell you the description of the room. I could tell you everything about that. It was a rather traumatic time in my life. It was the time when I wasn't sure I wanted to live, and that I wasn't sure that I would ever be able to be anything or do anything because I was one of them. And I determined at that time that even though this was the way that I was, I wasn't going to tell anybody. You know, I was not going to, no one was going to know about this. I was just going to do the best that I could. I couldn't just join something. I had to then end up running it. And so that's what I did. And my relationship with all my friends and my collegiate activities was all about community service. I was very involved with the college level of Kiwanis, Circle K International, student government at ASU, all while I was closeted with regard to my sexuality. And it worked out okay because I think people saw me as Neil, the guy who was doing all this stuff, and didn't really put me into a category in any other category at all. You know, I had one very platonic relationship with a wonderful woman, and we were so intensely close and emotionally close, never physically close, but emotionally very, very close. She told me at one point that, you know, you're gay, and I'm like, I don't know about that, and of course she was right. How acknowledging that to myself, what that did with me is kind of two ways. With my family, quite honestly, I kind of removed myself and I disassociated from my family, and not in necessarily good ways, but that's just sort of the way that I dealt with that. My father died in 1978, so this was a little bit after I had acknowledged it to myself, but I never had a conversation with him. With regard to sort of coming out, I think my family always knew, but it was never talked about. It was actually at my younger brother's wedding while we were all sort of in a big hotel room, and my mother just out of nowhere said, you know, everybody knows that you're gay, you might as well just tell them. When I was working at ASU, and I was now the Associate Executive Director of the ASU Alumni Association in 1989, and some folks said to me, you know, you should think of running for the city council. But because I was still closeted, I didn't think I could run for office. I mean, what are you thinking? Are you people blind? You know, you know, I don't really date. I kind of just do my own thing. I can't be a politician. But people encouraged me, and without that encouragement, I would have never done it. In May of 1990, I got elected to the city council, still closeted, and realizing now I'm more worldly aware, right? I know what's going on in the world. I see these issues. I see activists. I see things happening, and I'm thinking, well, that's me too, but I'm doing this on the city council. And I decided, when the mayor at the time decided not to run for re-election, I decided, you know, up or out. And I'll probably lose, because there was someone who'd been around the city for 20 years running. There was a gentleman on the city council for 10 years who was running, but I had only been on the council for 3.5 years when I decided to run for mayor. But I thought that's okay, because I'll lose and I'll get a life. And I can come out and I can kind of figure out what I want to do, and that'll all be good. But then I got elected. I got elected mayor in 1994. The political story is an interesting one, because here I am. It was a very hotly contested election in 1994 when I was first elected mayor. Cruised to re-election with no opponent at all. There were 2-year terms in 1996. So now I'm still the closeted mayor with no opposition. And when I had no opposition at all in that election, my adversaries and sort of the anti-gay folks who were just below the surface following me and watching what was going on really decided that no, he's not getting a free pass. So here I am as the newly re-elected mayor in 1996, still officially closeted, and we voted on having what most people may not remember. The Phoenix area's gay pride event was in the city of Tempe for many years on the soccer fields over by Diablo Stadium. And I voted as the mayor to waive the fees and the charges and so forth for that event to take place in Tempe. And shortly after that, people started coming to the city council meetings talking about that lifestyle in the city of Tempe, and why is the city of Tempe supporting this? Well, we had supported it for a long time, but now they've got a closeted mayor, and so I became the target.
Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the Tempe City Council, ladies and gentlemen, we are asking that the Tempe City Council, that zero tax money from public funds, whether in the form of grants, waivers, or subsidies, be designated, set aside, awarded, credited to, approved for, or otherwise be used to subsidize any so-called gay pride or homosexual group programs or activities within the city of Tempe. Such funding can only be regarded as endorsing a lifestyle that a significant majority of Tempe citizens find unnatural, offensive, and disgusting.
And I realized over that summer that life was way too short, that I needed to just come out. And the defining moment for me was when someone came to the city council meeting one night and said, basically, why are you funding the Lesbian Resource Project, and why are you funding this gay event over on the soccer fields? And we know one of you leads this lifestyle, and it's time for you to be exposed. I'm sitting there as the mayor going, yeah, they're talking about me. So after that first time when they came to the council and said, we know one of you leads this lifestyle and you need to be exposed, at a subsequent meeting about a week or two later, they came in and they said,
not only are we opening up Diablo Stadium for this show, where people are going to be coming from all over the country, lesbians and gays, and promoting their lifestyle. I've been told that there's 2 of you that promote that style.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on any topic?
Everyone on the city council is probably aware why this support exists. In fact, one of your members, Mr. Mayor, person on the city council, the last time I had a phone conversation with this person, specifically told me about the sexual preferences of one of the members of this council. I'm not going to mention the name of this person. I'll leave it to that person to decide whether or not that person has a personal conviction and courage to reveal this to the community. One of the finalists for Chief of Police in Tempe is also an active homosexual. And I think if you don't know about who that is, you probably should.
And I left that meeting going, whoa, you can come after me. I signed up for this. I ran. You are not coming after employees on television in a public meeting. And that was when a few days later I publicly released a statement to the press talking about why I thought these people were coming after me. And yes, I was gay, but we had more important issues to work on, like the Rio Salado project, like the Like Rail project, like the open park space projects. And so yes, I was gay, and we're moving on. And we did. Literally overnight, I became the most high-profile openly gay mayor in the United States and the first directly elected mayor in the United States who was gay. And then in my subsequent election in 1998, when I fully ran as an out person in 1998, the first directly elected openly gay mayor in the United States.
Having an openly gay mayor in the city of Tempe not only changed our city, but it changed the state and it changed the entire country. Neil was the first openly gay mayor of any major U.S. city.
I mean, you got to remember, this is all pre-social media, so this is newspapers. I mean, I have 4 notebooks of postcards and letters, like 2- and 3-page long letters and greeting cards from people all over the country who then read my story about being the gay mayor in Arizona, and they were writing to say they were gay too. They were writing to say they were living a lie in either politics or in some other way of life, some other occupation. So yeah, it was a fascinating time. It's not like today where people can just tweet about something or put something up on a Facebook profile. But cards and letters and so forth came in from all over the country, which was very gratifying. It was very nice.
I think we can all remember when Ellen came out, and that was a big deal at the time. But at the end of the day, it was people like Neil who really ushered in us being able to have these conversations openly and really ushered in an openness and an acceptance of the LGBTQ community in a way that there wasn't before. But it always takes someone to take that first step forward. And Neil was the person who took that first step forward, really opened things up in the city of Tempe and throughout the state of Arizona, but also throughout the entire country. We knew who Neil Giuliano was, and I was frankly living in New York at the time.
It was a responsibility. I didn't want to accept that responsibility at first. I just wanted to do my job as the mayor. But I started to realize that I had no choice but to accept the reality that I was now openly gay. I was living authentically, purely open, and there were not a whole lot of people doing that like me. I mean, the list of people in the mid to late 90s who were openly gay in elected office was probably not more than 40 or 45 people in the country. Tempe was the largest city in America with a gay mayor. My fear was that people would use my being gay against me and it would harm the agenda that I was putting forth to the community on everything else, whether it was advancing building the lake, whether it was Rio Salado or light rail or any of the things that were working. That my fear was it would limit my ability to govern because people would be mad about the fact that I was gay. That didn't happen with any of those projects. We built the lake, we did light rail, we did the urban revitalization in downtown Tempe. So that didn't happen, but that was my fear. In the mid-90s, there was only 35, maybe 38% approval of citizens in the United States who thought we should have full freedom and that we should be treated equally. What happened in 2000, though, was really interesting because if you recall, there was a big issue that year about the Boy Scouts of America and whether the Boy Scouts of America would be allowed to discriminate both in their youth involved or in their adults being involved based on sexual orientation. Basically, don't want any gay scouts and we don't want any gay scout masters, right? And the Supreme Court ruled in a close decision that the Boy Scouts had a right to choose their own membership. And so, wow, the reverberations, my God, the Boy Scouts are allowed to discriminate. Well, the Boy Scouts were also a part of the United Way campaign. The city by this time has a non-discrimination policy, and we say we won't support things that discriminate. We're not going to support organizations or institutions that discriminate. And I was asked by someone from the New Times, I believe at the time, well, what do you think about the Supreme Court decision? What does that mean for your public accommodation in the city? And my response, maybe I should have kept my mouth shut, but my response was, well, if you're allowed to discriminate, then the city can't support you because we have a policy of non-discrimination. Well, that was interpreted as the mayor hates the Boy Scouts, the mayor doesn't believe in the Boy Scouts, the mayor wants to defund the United Way campaign, and it just happened to be a month or so before the November 2000 election, and people took out recall petitions and they stood at the polls when people were going to vote in November of 2000, and they got enough signatures to force me into a recall election. And the story, now they'll tell you, oh, we didn't want him because he was in favor of light rail, or we didn't want him because he was in favor of buses, or whatever. The reality was they weren't in favor of me because I was gay. And we fought that election, cost my friends a lot of money, but we won overwhelmingly with almost 70% of the vote.
And coming out, what Neil did was made sure that other people knew that there was a place for them at this table as well. You know the old saying that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu? Well, for a long time, LGBTQ people are on the menu. And then Neil showed us all that there's space at this table for us too. We wouldn't have had a Pete Buttigieg without a Neil. We wouldn't have had any of the mayors, any of the other governors, any of the other ambassadors. There's so many elected officials and appointed officials who are openly LGBTQ. And I know we always point towards Harvey Milk, and justifiably so, because he was the first elected official. But to be mayor of the city is huge. And Neil showed a pathway for all of us who had aspirations in terms of assuming an official role to make our communities better and not feeling that we had to hide who we were in the process.
Neil really changed the trajectory of the city when it comes to LGBTQ rights, but honestly, he was just an exceptional leader, period. And so a lot of the things that we're doing today, we are still very much benefiting from Neil's leadership, and I'm tremendously grateful.
What a testament to the power of being an example for others. Really, from Neil's parents influencing his path to the incredible difference Neil made at such a young age in his collegiate and, of course, his political career.
Which he is well known for here in Arizona. It really is fascinating to hear how far this state of Arizona has come. And even though there is plenty of work still to be done, it's important to note that movement here for some is really movement for everyone. So we all have to do our part because it makes such a difference for the next generation. Now, let's take a quick break to hear from a few of our sponsors before we get back to Neil's story.
Hi, I'm Monica Garnes, president of Fry's Food Stores. I'd like to congratulate Neil on being selected for One Community's Unity Agent Award for 2020. We appreciate all the work he and One Community do to move diversity, inclusion, and equality forward for all Arizonans. On behalf of our 21,000 Fry's associates, thank you and congratulations.
Hi, this is Sheila Clefcorn with KEO Marketing. We are proud to be a sponsor of the Spotlight on Success event this year and want to congratulate Neil Giuliano as this year's honoree. We also just want to thank One Community for all of your tremendous work in helping to promote equality for all of us.
So when I decided not to run for re-election as mayor, I had served for 10 years. The term of office had been changed from 2 to 4 years, so I did 3 2-year terms, 1 4-year term. If I ran again, it would be for 4 more years. And I kind of decided, you know what, it's time to reinvent, it's time to be challenged, it's time to see if I can do anything else. I don't think I would have had any opposition if I had run for re-election. It was pretty clear, but I surprised everyone and said I wasn't going to run. And I also had retired from Arizona State University as well. So I was now heading toward not being in political office and not having a job. But I was okay with that, even though I had no idea what I was going to do. And I just started talking to people and listening to people, and 2 different friends of mine, one here in town named Curtis Steinhoff, and Steve Culbertson, who was a friend in Washington, D.C., both said to me, you know, you ought to talk to the people at GLAAD, which was then the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. They're looking for a president and CEO, and we've submitted your name. I'm like, you submitted my name? I didn't ask you to submit my name. I'm not a gay activist. I'm gay, but I'm not, you know. And so literally one thing led to the next, and they ended up hiring me. And that was in August of 2005. I had a wonderful experience with GLAAD. The staff was incredible. They were a lot of young, tremendously talented activists, and I was this new guy coming in from Arizona. Most of them have probably never even been to Arizona, who'd just been a politician, an openly gay politician. But one of the things I realized when I got there was we had already made a lot of ground with regard to fair, accurate, and inclusive representation of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people in the media from the standpoint of Hollywood. Maybe not so much all of them just yet, but the people in Hollywood understood fair representation better than the coverage that we had in sports, the coverage that we had with religion and faith, and certainly with regard to advertising. There were not gay images in advertising back in the mid-90s. And certainly this world of sports and the world of faith and religion still had a lot of homophobia. So we started entire programs focused on sports and created the National Sports Desk at GLAAD to work with sports organizations and individuals and people who were coming out involved in sports and all that. Same thing in communities of religion and faith. And then in advertising, we actually acquired a small LGBT organization that worked in advertising media at the time. So it was really a tremendous time. There were very specific conversations that took place during that time, I'd say 2005 to 2008 or so, that talked about shifting our message from demanding our rights to asking America to respect our relationships, right? And when we did that, and we wove in those new messages of respect our relationships, that seemed to be the message that resonated with the American population and the American voter, much more so than just demanding our rights, which we deserved our rights. But talking about respecting our relationships was probably a better way to go about it. And being involved with that conversation and helping with the messaging of the movement through a lot of support and a lot of really talented people was a tremendous honor for me. And some of my very great friends to this day are people that I met and worked with and came to know by working at Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Tremendous honor.
He was president of GLAAD, and he said something during one of his speeches that has stuck with me all these years later, which is, you have to change people's hearts and minds. And that's always guided my work as a journalist, keeping in mind that, you know, passing laws and making grand speeches, that's fantastic, but to make substantial change in society, you have to change people's hearts and minds. And I've always used that as a guiding light, and it's because of Neil.
What I can tell you, as someone who was living in another state and the world was beginning to rapidly change, and we were beginning to talk about the LGBTQ community, and they were just like everyone else. And what Neil did was he added humanity to that whole conversation. Conversations that people were not willing to have in public at that time, they were then willing to have because of folks like Neil, who truly were trailblazers and went out and talked about he was not afraid to talk about who he was and the fact that he was proud of who he was. And so that impact was felt even by someone like myself, who at the time was just starting college, wasn't even living in Arizona, but I know that it had a seismic change and a seismic effect for the entire country.
So I exited Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation after about 4 years, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. So I took a personal sabbatical. I wrote a book, I did some consulting, and when I was finishing up that year or so, I was having dinner with a friend in New York City, and we were kind of talking about his career and my career, and I said, I don't really know what I'm going to do next. I'll just kind of look around, and and he said, oh, I know some people with the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. I'm going to call them because you should be their next CEO. And I was like, I don't really know very much about HIV or AIDS. I'm a gay man, so of course I've been tested, but I've been fortunate that I'm HIV negative, so I've never really learned very much about any of the issues with regard to HIV and AIDS outside of the very general ones that everyone probably picks up or knows about. Well, turns out, make the long story short again, I talked with that group and they offered me the position of being the president and CEO at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. And it was at an interesting time because it was at a time where it was really necessary to realign the model of care for people with HIV from a sickness and disease management model to a health and wellness model, because the meds at that point and now will allow someone who's HIV positive to live a normal life as long as they stay on their treatment. And so that was a big shift. And I spent 5 years there working on that with an incredibly talented group of people, both staff as well as people in the community. One day, actually, I was at an event with then Mayor, now Congressman Greg Stanton, and I said, yeah, I'm going to transition back from San Francisco. I had kept my home and my residency in Arizona all the time through GLAAD and the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. And Greg said to me, oh, you know, the Greater Phoenix leadership is looking for a new president and CEO. And my first thought was, well, Greater Phoenix leadership is never going to hire me. I've now been a national gay activist and I work in healthcare on HIV/AIDS in San Francisco. But again, one thing led to the next. I had conversations with the leadership of Greater Phoenix leadership at the time, and I was hired.
Neil's been an important change maker at GPL in that under his leadership, we've become a very visible public policy organization in so many important areas. Neil has allowed corporate leaders to feel comfortable in creating a space to want to push for a statewide update.
He's a natural born leader, and so he has the ability to get people together around a common cause.
I think my background in LGBTQ activism comes together with what I'm doing now, and it all interrelates to each other because society has evolved. Certainly the corporate community has evolved, and I will give a nod and say the corporate community helped lead the changing of the culture in the United States with regard to LGBTQ non-discrimination and LGBTQ equity. It was corporate America that had non-discrimination policies long before most municipalities, not all, but most municipalities, and certainly long before the culture has evolved to where it is. And all those employees who worked at all those big corporations in the United States who had those policies and promoted those policies to all of their employees, that's culture changing. That's part of what brought society along to accept LGBTQ people as they are, to bring them their full selves to their work every single day. So now I'm in a position where I work with business leaders. I work with men and women who lead large organizations with a lot of employees who are doing the right thing and want to do even more to ensure equity within their organizations and to ensure a fair and safe environment for their employees. Because we have business leaders in Arizona now who are doing the right thing for their own employees and realizing that they have to be a part of doing the right thing for all of society. They can't just lead for their own organization internally, they need to lead externally on issues of LGBTQ representation as well. So I am very proud that Greater Phoenix leadership and partnering with other business organizations has been a leader in trying to get non-discrimination laws passed in Arizona, in being visible, in speaking out, and allowing stories to be told. It will be that coalition of the business community, business leaders, with LGBTQ activists, their families, their friends, that will get us to being fully free in the state of Arizona. It's important for us to include our voices with other communities, other groups that are marginalized, and take the opportunities to stand together with other marginalized groups and other marginalized people in society. That's the only way we all move forward together. We don't really move forward by ourselves. We move forward together. When I think of what gives me hope for the future, it's definitely the young people. Straight, LGBTQI, it's the collection of young people who realize that people are people, and they're not going to judge people or put people in a box by who they love or how they present or how they want to identify. And they give me hope. Hopefully, all of us in my generation have helped move society and move culture in such a way that it's ready for them. I think we've readied it for them. I hope we have readied it for them, but they're going to be the ones that get it over the finish line.
The best thing about Neil is that he truly has a huge tent and everyone is welcomed. And it's not just rhetoric with him. I've seen it up close and personal. You can go over his house and have no idea who's going to be there. And that's fantastic for anyone in leadership to have that kind of quality where everyone feels as if there's a space for them, where everyone feels as if their contributions will be heard. And so because of his big tent sort of perspective in life, his leadership made sure that people of all sorts of backgrounds, whether you're talking racial minorities, religious minorities, cisgender or transgender, like everyone felt as if not only were they welcomed under Neil's leadership, but that they were valued and that their contributions were heard. And that's an important quality for any leader to have.
I think what makes Neil such a unique human being as well as a leader is that he's one of the most genuine and transparent people I've ever met. I think it's something that we all aspire to be that way, but very few of us are able to live that on a day-to-day basis.
What I admire most about Neil is just that he really is the true definition of a public servant. He does things not for the fame. He doesn't do things for anything monetary. He does things because they're truly important to the community. The tremendous amount of work he's done for all of the residents of the city of Tempe, the work that he's done on behalf of the LGBTQ community, the work that he's done on behalf of Arizonans. He does all of these things not for any kind of financial reward, not for any kind of acclaim. He does them just simply because they're the right thing to do. And I think that's what we should all aspire to be as public servants and frankly just as citizens of this country, is just to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And Neil is the true embodiment of that.
We are grateful for Neil's partnership with One Community and the important work they are doing together. And now, before we hear from One Community's 2019 Unity Agent, Sheila Clefcorn, the amazing Sheila, we love you, and of course our fearless leader, Angela, let's take a quick moment, again, to hear from our sponsors.
Internet usage has gone up, way up, because the things we used to do in person we're now doing over the internet. Like this, and this. Hey, nice trick. Seriously, how do you do that? So we just want to thank our Cox Techs for their hard work doing all of this, and this, so we can keep doing all of this.
wherever your day does or doesn't take you, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona wants it to be the best it can be. We provide access to online care and partner with hospitals where you can get the treatment you need so you can do life.
Hi, this is Steve Castle with Castle Real Estate Group. And for the past 20 years, we've been helping Arizonans find the place they feel they belong. We are proudly committed to contributing to a workplace and a state where people feel comfortable being themselves, and are proud to support all of the amazing work being done by One Community.
Hello, I'm Sheila Clefcorn, and I am so happy to be here with you all today to tell you about my good friend, Angela Huey. I've known Angela for many years as a friend and as a partner in the effort to create an LGBTQ inclusive Arizona, one that is truly welcoming and open for business to everyone. And I can tell you, there is nobody more tenacious, more determined, and more endlessly positive than Angela. Angela's energy is infectious. Even in the face of adversity and headwinds, her can-do attitude and Midwest sayings pull us through every time. Let's make hay while the sun shines. Time to make lemonade, and some others I'm forgetting right now, but they always leave me with hope and energy to do more. Angela is also a strategic and an innovative leader, which is the not-so-secret ingredient to the success of One Community. She is always looking for new ways to expand the Coalition for Equal Treatment and Full Equality and shift the paradigm for what is possible. So whether it's through groundbreaking educational programming for community leaders and businesses, working within our faith communities, starting the largest equality pledge in the nation, that included mom and pop shops clear up to Fortune 500 companies, or taking large in-person events and converting them to successful virtual platforms and forming unlikely partnerships, no matter how many cups of coffee it takes, appropriately socially distanced, of course, Angela brings our community together and makes us stronger. With all the challenges we have ahead of us, I'm super grateful for a leader like Angela to help us navigate our way through, someone who will never give up, who always keeps us moving forward and leads us on our path to a fully inclusive Arizona. Angela has long been a supporter and cheerleader for me, and today I am grateful to have the opportunity to do the same for her. I am so honored to introduce you to the co-founder and president of One Community and the One Community Foundation, Angela Huey.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you, Carrie and Brandon. And most importantly, thank you, Neil, for trusting us and allowing us to share your remarkable story. And for all of you for joining us today from across this big, bold, beautiful state for what is our first, and hopefully last, virtual Spotlight on Success. 2020 has tested us, both personally and professionally, in profound ways. But whenever I've had moments of doubt and search for the path forward, I remind myself of the good we've seen in people and of leaders like Neil and Sheila and all of you who give me hope and courage each and every day. But hope and courage alone won't get us where we need to be. We must channel those feelings into action during this tumultuous time that capitalizes and thrives on our differences and divisiveness. We must stay united. We must all take ownership and realize it is all of our responsibility to treat people fairly in what we say, but more importantly, in what we do. Words are simply not enough. We have a responsibility to work together collaboratively to ensure we have equitable solutions that leave no one behind. And one of the most important responsibilities that we have to take action has already begun. Voting. It's one of our greatest privileges as Americans. The opportunity to decide our own destiny. To change the course of our nation, we all must vote. And we must vote for candidates who are LGBTQ inclusive, who believe that Black Lives Matter, and who will create equitable solutions for all Americans. We must not let hateful or hurtful actions divide or deter us. We must not let the comfort of our privilege lead us to turning a blind eye. The only way through this divisive era is together. Is taking action together. I'm not saying it will be easy, but I believe that our determination to treat all people fairly will lead to a better tomorrow, not just for Arizonans, but for our great nation. So thank you all for having faith in us and in one another. We are forever grateful for your commitment, your work, your partnership, and for leading with your hearts. And thank you all for being here today. We truly are one community.
Unity Agent Sponsor, PetSmart. Center Stage Sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Castle Group, Cox, Fry's Food Stores, Glendale Chamber of Commerce, Hensley, JP Morgan Chase, KEO Marketing, Many to One, and Sheridan Graham. Floodlight Sponsors, Arizona Cardinals, Apple, OH Strategic, and Open Wide Dental.
Searchlight sponsors, Arizona Coyotes and Univision. Highlight sponsors, AARP of Arizona, American Medical Response, Bank of America, Downtown Phoenix Inc., Gamage and Burnham, Goodman's Interior, PayPal, Phoenix College, and SRP.